Welcome to the Best of Beaver County, presented by St. Barnabas, a weekly segment dedicated to putting the focus on the amazing things and the amazing people behind them in Beaver County. The Best of Beaver County is sponsored by and content is provided by St. Barnabas. The show airs every Thursday from 11 to 11:30 on WBVP, WMBA, 99.3 FM, and Facebook Live. Now, with no further ado, let's welcome host Mike Romigh to introduce today's program.
Good morning and welcome to the Best of Beaver County radio show on the St. Barnabas Radio Network. The St. Barnabas Health System is a trusted name in healthcare focused on compassionate and quality care. In 1900, St. Barnabas was established as a charitable home. It now consists of 3 campuses throughout Beaver, Allegheny, and Butler counties. Luxurious retirement living at St. Barnabas is comprised of the Village in Gibsonia, Western Pennsylvania's first retirement community, which includes an indoor mall, and the Woodlands, which features single-entry, multi-unit, upscale carriage homes in Gibsonia. And of course, Whitetail Ridge, a multi-generational development. Additionally, St. Barnabas is the only continuing care retirement community in Western Pennsylvania with a medical center, making the health system apart from the ordinary. Providing residents, patients, and the community with opportunities to enhance their quality of life is part of the mission at St. Barnabas Health System. The Best of Beaver County show aims to provide healthy living topics we hope will enlighten, entertain, and inform you. Today's show will do just that. To advise you, our listeners in the greater metropolitan region, with timely information. Every day we hear about people running scams, those that try to steal the identity of others, and telemarketers whose aim is to gain access to our personal information. These individuals target their attacks toward those in the senior population. Today, to discuss the scams and offer us valuable tips to increase our ability to recognize these risky telephone calls, we welcome our guest, Beaver County Sheriff Tony Guy. Good morning, Tony, and welcome.
Good morning, Mike. Nice to see you again.
Good to see you once again.
Absolutely.
You're looking well. Were you down south?
No, I've got kind of swarthy good looks, I guess you could say. So my natural tone.
And you can't see it, but I saw it when I first walked in. Tony, the sheriff in town, he's wearing the cowboy boots. Those look like snakeskin boots. I see you have on. Yeah, all right, good.
I'm a boot guy.
Comfortable, huh?
Yeah.
Comfortable. Well, you used to ride motorcycles.
I did. I rode motorcycles on the job for the state police. I did that for 3-4 years or so. So you got used to wearing boots. I am. Yeah.
Tell us about your Beaver County roots and your trajectory towards becoming the sheriff.
Sure. So I'm a lifelong Beaver County resident. Grew up in Plan 12, Aliquippa, and
one of the tough guys then, huh?
Oh, I don't know about that.
Yeah,
It was actually a great place to grow up, man.
That's what I've heard.
It really, really was. Good neighbors, good friends, and lots of things to do for kids in those days. And I know we're probably fairly close to the same age, so I would think you kind of grew up similarly. That
oh, come on, look at you. You're a lot younger than I am.
you know, the rules were in the summer. You went out, you ran around all day with your friends, came home for lunch, and then back out. Whether it was the basketball courts or a swimming pool or playing at the Little League field and be home by dark, be home when the street lights came on.
That's when J&L and all those places were pumping tax dollars into the community and, you had these recreational facilities and there were no problems. Yeah, it was great to be a kid.
Well, it's interesting you say that because that's kind of a nice transition there to what led me to the state police, to be honest with you, because I graduated high school in '79, tried college for a little bit, wasn't really focused as much as I should be on my studies.
We do have a lot in common. That's how I ended up in radio.
Right. And so I was, the mills were starting to go down at that point, right? And so the potential to have a job that was going to be able to take care of you and your family and get a house and all those things was starting to dry up. And so I know a lot of people, and I've come to encounter a lot of people who tell this story about since they were a little kid, they always wanted to be a policeman or a state trooper. And I didn't have that experience. Basically, I saw an opportunity for a job. And so I pursued that and went through the process with the state police and you know, a test and interviews and background investigation and all those kind of things. And it wasn't until years and years later when I started doing a lot of different things that I came to the conclusion that this was absolutely what I was made to do, you know.
And it's interesting, you come from Plan 12, and you know, 40 years ago, Plan 12 was a lot different than it is today.
Yeah.
And do you think that, you know, making the shift from growing up in Plan 12 and probably running from the police from time to time, and then wanting to become a police officer, that's a whole different, I guess, change for you.
Well, there were some after-hour swim parties at the Plan 12 pool, and so when you say you ran from the police, I'm going to plead the fifth on that, even though the statute of limitations is probably up. But I'll say this too.
I think Mayor Walker has a swimsuit down there.
They might have found something. I'm not going to say. But you know, I also believe that the best cops that I've ever met and ever worked with have been the ones who have had some experiences where maybe they've stepped across the line just a little bit, you know, and understand things a little better.
Well, yeah, because, you know, you've been there.
Yeah.
You know, kind of done that, and you could, you know, when you come across the kids and stuff like that, say, you know what, you know, it doesn't have to be this way. You're heading in a direction that's
right.
just not going to end well.
That's right, and I think there's a throwback to those times too that I don't know if it's used as much now in handling juveniles, where it was a matter of taking them home and talking to their parents and trying to get them on the right path without getting them involved in the criminal justice system. You know?
How did the work with the state police lead you to want to become sheriff?
It didn't.
Okay.
No, the truth is, you know, I did a lot with the state police. You know, I rode the motorcycle, like you said.
Where'd you ride the motorcycle?
On the Parkway in Pittsburgh.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I was actually one of the first group of motorcycle police officers for the state police.
Do they still have that?
They do.
Do they? Okay.
They do.
I don't seem. It doesn't seem to me. I see the police motorcycles on 376 that much, but then I don't travel that road that often.
Yeah, and the idea behind it was to be able to use those motorcycles to get in between traffic when traffic bogs down or something and be able to respond. Yeah.
Did they have traffic problems in Pittsburgh? That you have to get around? Is that?
You've come on now. You've drove through that tunnel.
You know, Green Tree Hill at what 7:45 or something like that. You're going to run into trouble. But no, okay. So you were riding bikes?
Motorcycle, and I worked undercover on with a drug unit for a few years. I was a polygraph examiner, and for 10 years, I was on the state police SWAT team, which is a kind of a part-time team, for 15 years. So I got a lot of great experience. Retired as a sergeant, heading up a criminal investigation unit, and then in 2010 I retired, and I honestly thought I was out of law enforcement. Did some private security work after that. And, kind of got called back.
Kind of like, you know, that Al Pacino in Godfather 3. Every time I think I'm out, they pull me back in again.
I would rather equate it to the George Washington thing, where haven't I given enough?
Yeah.
You know, isn't it time for me to finally go? But and that time will come someday. But I still feel like I have a lot to give.
Is it a different path? I mean, in terms of what you were doing for the state police and what you're doing with the sheriff's department?
Oh,
responsibilities and whatnot?
Responsibilities, 100%, absolutely. Yeah, we don't do the same things that the state police do. We have specific functions that we deal with. But as the sheriff in that position, most of my work is administrative. And so throughout my career with the state police, I've had bosses, you know, supervisors and above, who were good leaders and bad leaders, and I've learned a lot from that. And I think you kind of take that all in, and you try to apply it to a position like this, where you are really managing people more than anything else.
You mentioned polygraph. You know Charlie Hurt?
I do.
Used to be Beaver Falls Police.
Yeah.
He did polygraph
Absolutely.
for a long time, too.
It was a great gig.
Yeah.
It really was. I enjoyed it.
Now, how accurate? I mean, if we pulled Mark Pirilli over here and said, put him under the polygraph, would, you know, could we catch him on?
Oh, I could.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that.
He's
and
sweating
he grew
already
up in
over
Plan
there.
12 too, by the way. He was on the Hollywood
okay.
side, but I would probably have some pretty good questions for Mark.
Yeah. And, you know, the guys you grew up with, the people you used to run with, you probably still see some of them today. When you decided to get into law enforcement, you know, what was their reaction to it?
Well, you know, it's funny you say that today. Absolutely. My best friends are my oldest friends, without question. But when I took that path, there was no negative connotations with that, and it was all positive. It was an opportunity for me, and I think I guess they would say they were happy for me and kind of proud to be involved in my life and my career.
Yeah, I know that when I grew up, all my family were steel workers. They had no indication that I would ever get into the business that I got into.
Right,
so
right.
it was a little bit different. Your family, growing up in Plan 12, obviously you had some steel workers. In the family.
My dad and his family were railroaders. My dad grew up in Freedom,
okay.
and so my grandfather was worked for the railroad. My father, my uncles, all railroaders. So
and when you said, hey, I'm thinking about going to the academy, did they give you any?
No, I think they were happy about that. Actually, my dad was kind of the mindset that he did that in his career, and he wanted something better for his children. So yeah. I think they were pretty happy to see that.
And obviously, Conway Yards is no longer what it used to be back then.
Right.
J&L, like all the other mills around here. So you took the right path.
Absolutely, without question.
Yeah.
Without question.
Okay. Now, when you're riding a bike on the on 376 or the Parkway, and you have to pull somebody over, you give tickets. How's that work out? Do you ever, do people always give you some story? I really have to go to the bathroom. That's why I'm trying to get to an exit, or somebody's hurting or something like that. What are some of the crazy stories that you've heard?
There have been some, and I got to tell you, I spent my first few years on the road, and then after that, I was kind of in specialized positions. So some of those stories are pretty old, and some of them, like the have to go to the bathroom kind of thing, might not be good for mixed company kind of things. But I do remember at a time when radar detectors started coming out, and I pulled a guy over once, and I saw that he had a radar detector, and I asked him about it. And he said, listen, if it'll get me out of a ticket, I will take that out and step on it and crush it right now. So I said, oh, okay. Yeah. And he did, and it was no big deal, but people don't like getting pulled over.
Yeah. As a patrolman or an officer, a trooper, do you have a certain amount of discretion?
Oh, 100%, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, everything you do.
So a nice-looking lady with sunglasses, blonde hair, she's got a convertible top down, and please.
I was not that guy. Tears don't really affect me that well. Here's the way I figure it, Mike. With those kind of people, they've probably gotten out of a lot of things already in their life, and maybe today's not going to be their day.
Yeah, very good. And the amount of time that an officer or a trooper has to spend in court to follow these things up, people don't realize that. They think your job is 9 to 5 or whatever your shift is, and that's done.
Yeah, there's a whole lot more involved that people don't see that happens kind of behind the curtains. Paperwork, administrative things, training, all those things that play into it. Law enforcement these days is truly a profession. It really is. There's a lot that goes into it.
What about the bike? What kind of bike do troopers
We rode Harleys.
Harleys?
We
Okay.
rode Harleys, yeah, absolutely. So I got paid 8 hours a day to ride around on a Harley. They paid the gas, put oil in it, put gas in it, paid the insurance, and I got to ride around all day.
Now, how much of a trooper's job on a motorcycle on the Parkway in Pittsburgh is like Chips out in California that we used to see on television?
Yeah, boy, that's an old
Eric
show,
Estrada,
man, right? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a separate function, and it was. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. You have particular hiding places that you used to?
I'm still not going to reveal those because I think they're still being used.
Yeah, that 911 tactical unit up there, you just pull off and go
absolutely.
after them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. In terms of being sheriff, and we'll transition into the sheriff's work as we get into the second part of the program here. A lot of people still don't know what goes on, what are the roles and the responsibility of the sheriffs and the sheriff's deputies. And, being a member of the media for a long time, I remember different meetings where people say, why do we have so many deputies? What do we need these guys for? Why are they doing this? Why are they doing that? And,
good question.
Some of those things can get pretty political from time to time.
Yeah, and it is a different function, and some of that is because of the laws in Pennsylvania. Some of it has been directed to us by the courts, but it is a different function, and we are limited in what we're able to do. So. And I could expound on that if you want. But
After we take the break, we'll get into it and find out what it is the Sheriff's Department does, what are they responsible for, and you might want a gun permit. How do they handle those sort of things? The scams that we talked about at the beginning of the program, we're going to get into that as well. So stay tuned. This is the Best of Beaver County on the St. Barnabas Radio Network. I'm Mike Romigh, and our guest is Beaver County Sheriff Tony Guy.
It's been stated before that working at St. Barnabas is compassionate work with excellent career opportunities. In addition, we've heard when you enjoy what you're doing, it's not work. But don't take my word for it. Let's listen in to what motivates their employees.
Hi, my name's Susan Elleteri. I'm grateful for my nursing career and the satisfaction that excellent care brings. This alone keeps me coming back every day. When our residents look forward to seeing us and are thankful for our excellent care, it goes a long way. Keeps me coming back every day.
Find out about the exceptional career opportunities St. Barnabas has to offer by visiting stbarnabashealthsystem.com/careers for more information or by calling 724-444 JOBS. That's 724-444-5627. Find out why St. Barnabas is apart from the ordinary.
You're watching the Best of Beaver County, listening to the Best of Beaver County on the St. Barnabas Radio Network. I'm Mike Romigh with our guest, Beaver County Sheriff Tony Guy. As we move into the roles and responsibilities of the Sheriff's Department, and Tony, you were talking about, the state rules in terms of what the Sheriff's Department can do and the deputies.
Yeah, so let me start here. And when you go to a lot of the other states, western states especially, southern states, when you have municipalities that do not have their own police, for whatever reason, can't support that. In those southern and western states, the sheriff's office covers those for all police functions. In Pennsylvania, it's different. When you have a municipality like that here, it's covered by the state police. Mm-hmm. The state police are the first responders. You dial 911, that's who you're going to get. And so Pennsylvania is structured a little bit differently. And there have been some court cases over the years that because some certain things weren't written into the laws about law enforcement authority for sheriffs, we've been restricted in conducting investigations. So.
Okay. So is it that you have to wait on the local law enforcement to call on you and say, we need you guys here?
So we can take action, anything we view, we can take action. But if we're going to involve ourselves in an investigation or assist a police department, generally we wait for them to ask us. If they need some help with something, we will respond and help them with those things.
Okay. And as far as the staff that you have, is that at your discretion, or you have to go to the commissioners and say, we need more people here? I remember some of the conversations actually where they were trying to limit the number of deputies you had at the doors at the courthouse.
Yeah, and so county government is ruled by Act 1620, and it's statute. And if changes in personnel is addressed by the salary board in the county. So there's people, the commissioners sit on that salary board. If I want more or they want less, we meet, we talk about it, we vote on proper staffing levels. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of determined and required to be determined by statute.
K-9.
Yeah.
Unit. Yeah. Where's that today? Because it's been like 4 years since I heard any conversation about that.
Sure.
Do you guys still have K9?
We're still active.
Okay.
We're still active with the K9, and we have a drug dog here in the county, and we have a bomb dog, and that drug dog, especially in particular, gets called out quite a bit by local departments who need some assistance with that. And it's great to have a countywide resource like that to be able to respond and to provide that timely assistance in what could be a potential drug investigation.
So there's a lot more involved than traffic control for the deputies.
Oh, without question.
Yeah.
Without question. The main functions, that we do is we provide security for the courthouse. We provide security for the courts and the judges. We run the regional booking center at the jail, which anybody who gets arrested, they get processed through their fingerprinted photograph, those types of things. So we work closely with the jail. We transport prisoners. With the COVID coming up, a lot of that stuff is being done by video conference now, and we kind of run the video conference rooms at the jail to allow the judges to conduct remotely, court proceedings. We are in charge of the warrants for the county, so anybody that doesn't appear for something that they need to, for criminal cases, we get the warrants for those, and we go out and look for those folks and bring them in to meet the judge that they need to talk to.
And that's an interesting part, because we'll put COVID and that aspect together. Over the past 2 years, the work has to have become more dangerous, because people that you have to go because they didn't appear in court, you knock on their door. People who are incarcerated, they're not going to be the most pleasant people, and so they're spewing things at you and stuff like that. Under COVID, how's that affected your deputies? And the
Yeah,
work
so
you do?
so I don't know so much that the fact that COVID is with us now and probably will always be with us has made our job more difficult or more dangerous. I just think we've had to adjust to the things that involve COVID. Listen, like I said, we're responsible for security at the courthouse. Very few people come into the courthouse for a happy day. You know, they're either coming there to pay their taxes, they're coming there because they got arrested and they got to be in court, or even civil proceedings. You know, they're involved in some type of dispute with somebody. Most people are not happy to have to go to the courthouse. So those are the people we deal with on a regular basis, as well as the people out in public.
Well, the whole mood of the country has changed so much since you became sheriff over the, even the past.
Well, don't blame it on me.
10 years. Once Tony Guy took office, all hell broke loose.
Right,
but,
right.
The mood, and people are angry, people are afraid. A number of things going on today. And you see it in your office. And I want to ask you how this works as far as getting a gun permit. Have you seen increases, or does it kind of like wane from time to time? Next election comes up, they're going to go up again, depending on the rhetoric out there?
That's right. We've had a little bit of an uptick, and we had to adjust the way that we were doing gun permits for a short period of time because of some restrictions on coming into the courthouse and masking and those and social distancing and all those things. So we had to change some things. But I think we've had a little bit of an uptick over the last 2 years, and I think that is in part because of some of the hot topics and confrontational rhetoric that goes on. And I don't necessarily think that that's a bad thing that people are getting gun permits, but I think it's a reflection of what's going on in society.
And does that, and it's always brought up, especially in talk radio, does that impact the job of you and your deputies, because you got to go out there and you don't know what you're going to be facing?
Yeah, and law enforcement has always been that way. But yeah, when you talk about how society is these days, and probably the best example of it is social media here, where the way they function is they intentionally drive people apart, and you're in one camp or the other, and all we're doing is yelling across that middle ground at each other. I don't know that I've ever seen this in my lifetime quite this bad.
Yeah, and so if a person wants to get a gun, what is the process that they have to do?
Yeah, so there's a form. You can actually go online to the Beaver County website. Just search Beaver County, Pennsylvania, and you'll get the county website. Go to the sheriff's office, and you can download. You can actually fill out the application online and bring it with you to the courthouse. We do it all in person. Come in, 2 references, $20 cash or money order, and that's it.
Yeah.
We run a background check on you, and we issue a permit while you're there.
Any limitations to that? I mean, in terms of if somebody has something in their background that's
Sure.
going to come up in the...
Sure, there are restrictions, of course, and certain people aren't able to get a permit, but the state's instant check system is the ones who determine that. So we just send all the information into the PICS system, and PICS gives us a response back, usually pretty quick, letting us know if that person's eligible to receive a gun permit. And if they are, we issue it. If not, we let them know why and subsequently follow up with some documentation by mail.
And have you seen the increase in women getting gun permits?
Yeah, I think so.
That's dangerous.
I think so. Well, my wife doesn't have one, so it's not too dangerous for me right now. But there has been some uptick. And to be honest with you, I got to tell you, women are... Boy, you got to be careful what you say these days to be called sexist. But I believe that in general, women can be more vulnerable, and the ability to have a firearm with you can be an equalizer in certain situations.
Sure.
So,
and they're probably more level-headed too when it comes down to it. They don't have that ego that's going to, they're going to jump off the ego. You have different experiences with that, I suppose. Let's move on.
Yes, before we get each other in trouble here, right?
How about scams? We're constantly, and anymore it seems like, the local news is always talking about somebody, and especially a senior citizen, who's been scammed and lost $10,000 of their entire life savings.
These things are picking up, and I think the reason for it is through technology, these people are able to throw a really, really broad net. So if you're throwing it out to 1,000 people, and 0.1% of those people respond to it and give money to you, you've still got your several $1,000s. That's one person out of 1,000.
Okay.
And so when they're able to throw it out to millions and do these scams, whether it's emails, text messages now, phone calls, people knocking at your door. My wife texted me this morning, and she texted me and said that she got a text message saying that they were the electric company, that they were going to shut off our electric in a half hour because we hadn't paid our bill.
Yeah.
Now, we're on auto pay. Our bill's paid every month, and I don't even know about it, right? And so I guess my point is you really got to use some common sense when you get these kind of things. Most of them can just be ignored, and we'll talk a little bit, I think, about some advice to give people on how to respond to those things. But it's rampant. It's everywhere.
Yeah, and people of a certain age probably aren't as savvy with the technology and things like that.
Yeah.
We've heard of cases where somebody calls the house and they say it's their grandchild and they need help. They're in a different location, and they have to make bail, or they're going to have all kind of problems. And people fall for that, and they'll wire the money.
Yeah, I have a friend who fell for that. Mark and I were just talking about this a little while ago. I have a friend who fell for that, and it's become a really, really common scam that they use. They call you up on the phone, and keep in mind, all this information that we're putting out there on social media provides these people with the tools and the information about your personal life to let them know how to come at you, how to attack you. So my buddy's parents got a phone call saying their grandson, my buddy's son, claiming it was him on the phone, and he was in a bad accident, saying, don't tell my mom and dad this happened, but I was in a bad accident, I need money, or I'm going to go to jail, blah, 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 and all these things. They convinced my buddy's parents to go and get $3,000 Walmart gift cards and read them the numbers over the phone.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the solution to that would have been nothing, would have been just as simple as picking up the phone and calling my buddy and saying, hey, what's going on with your son? Is he in trouble? I got this phone call. You got to be able to communicate with each other and trust the people around you.
Yeah, and for the rest of us who haven't fallen for a scam yet, I'm not saying that it won't happen at some point, but for the rest of us, we see it, we say, how can people be so stupid? How do they fall for that stuff?
I think they prey on us in two different ways. Number one is greed. You know, there's the old pigeon drop, and I don't want to go into how that worked, but people would be convinced that they were going to get money from these folks if they gave them a little bit of seed money, a little bit of money here, and so greed is a factor there. The other thing is fear. And when we fear that there's something really bad going on in our life and we try to fix it, whether it's shutting off your electricity or keeping your grandson out of trouble, they feed on our emotions.
It's a shame that society has gotten to this point. So bad, in fact, that even they will peruse the obituaries in the local newspaper.
Absolutely. So if I could give some advice, and I know we're going to be short on time here, if I could give some advice, it would be before you go and get gift cards, before you write a check, before you give anybody information over the phone or in an email or through a text message about your bank accounts or anything like that, call somebody you trust. Call somebody you know, call somebody you trust. And if you don't have anybody around you like that, call your local police department. Dial 911, explain the situation to them. They're going to take your call. They're going to triage that information. Obviously, that's not going to keep them from responding to a bank robbery.
Sure.
So somebody will get back to you, and they will advise you what to do in those kind of situations. Don't buy into the fear. Don't buy into the what these people are trying to prey upon.
Yeah, and I think that's the root of the problem, is because so many of us, you grew up in Plan 12, I grew up in downtown Beaver Falls. I'm not afraid of anything in Beaver Falls. You probably walk through Plan 12 at any time and not fear it, because there was a certain trust factor.
Yeah.
And our parents and grandparents, they trust people. They're saying this, they're telling you this, they have a little bit of information, so you're going to trust them. Now you can't trust people anymore.
You're absolutely right. That's not the world we live in anymore. Just like Plan 12 has changed, so has the rest of society.
So be aware. Awareness is the key to all of this.
Yeah.
And is this something that the Sheriff's Department gets involved with?
Yeah, frankly, they've even used a scam involving the Sheriff's Office, calling people up saying, we got a warrant for, this is the Sheriff's Office, we got a warrant for you. If you get any of those kind of calls, before you respond, do your own investigation. Make a phone call. Call us. Call us. Call the sheriff's office and say, is this legitimate? Because we don't want to be helping people facilitate these scams. So.
Okay. Well, we're just about out of time. You still riding motorcycle? No?
I haven't ridden for a while. I got an Indian in my garage that's probably going to be for sale this spring.
I was going to say, I see that on pickers all the time, Indian motorcycles. People
Yeah,
like those
it's a
ones
beautiful
out there.
bike. Beautiful
all right.
bike.
And you're going to continue in your role? You're enjoying it enough?
I am.
Okay.
I am. I expect to run for a third term here shortly.
Awesome. Sheriff Tony Guy from the Beaver County Sheriff's Department. Thank you for being with us, Tony.
Thanks,
really
Mike.
appreciate
Always
appreciate talking to you. This is the Best of Beaver County. Thank you so much for being with us today, and we'll do it again next time. Be safe. We'll talk to you again on the St. Barnabas Radio Network.
Thank you for listening to the Best of Beaver County. St. Barnabas is pleased to have provided content and sponsorship for the program. Tune in this Sunday at 11:30 for an encore presentation of today's program on Beaver County Radio. And next Thursday at 11 for another edition of the Best of Beaver County on WBVP, WMBA, and 99.3 FM.